Hello and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host for the show. And today I have Patrick Hébert joining me once again. Patrick, it's so nice to have you join me on the show. How are you?
Good, and yourself?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think, and likewise, thanks for coming on. It's always a pleasure having you come back on periodically and kind of touching base with you, seeing where things are at, what's new, especially with your adjustments with your disability, vision loss. How are things coming along with that?
Well, I seem to have plateaued with the vision recovery. For a while, I was 20/300. And it improved to 2200 and then 2100. Now it's 20/30, which is great, except I don't have peripheral anymore because of the laser treatment to burn the bleeds. And I find that contrast is very hard to, like, when something's kind of light white and then gray, it all looks white to me. Like it's walking in snow was very difficult. I'm not looking forward to winter because, hopefully with global warming there won't be any more winter, and that's a plus, I guess. But
everything kind of blends right in, and otherwise it's like all white. White snow,
exactly.
Everything else.
Well, and if it's foggy out or whatever, like bright light, I find very hard to deal with. Bright sunlight. So
what I had happened to me once was when there was a lot of snow on the ground. It was all white out, and then it was bright sun, and I didn't have sunglasses on. And then I went inside the house and I realized I was getting like red streaks across my eyes for a few. It wasn't very long, but it was like for a few minutes. Wow. And I realized that what I had done, like I kind of damaged my eyes for because like you have that snow blindness, they call it, right? When you have the sun reflecting off the snow, and it really messed with my eyes for, like I said, it was like a short-term thing, but it really messed with them, and I was like, oh crap. I think next time the sun's out with the snow, I'll be wearing sunglasses.
Well, that's what I had too before I got my new transitions at New Look Eyewear after my fiasco I had to go through with the other company, but that was a hurdle. But I had to go for quite a while without transition lenses, so. Yeah, it was hard for me because my eyes are very sensitive to sunlight, and without having sunglasses, I'd get clip-ons. Of course, I had got a pair, and they wouldn't work for me. I just didn't seem to clip on, and so I'd wear a cap, right? So it kind of away from the sun, and it would kind of give me a little bit of shade, right? Of course, when it got too hot, I didn't want to wear a cap because being sweltering, right? What can you do? And so I hear you about the light sensitivity for sure, and I encourage people, who are out in the sun, like protect your eyes. Like it's so important. It's like Neil, like I could actually relate to that. Like I came in one day and I was just like not really seeing stars, but it was just like whoa, like it was like my eyes would be kind of flickering a little bit because it was like trying to adjust after the sun, right? I felt like you had something in your eye, but you didn't,
Yeah, and it's nothing that it's something that I didn't experience before. It was like a one-time thing because it's not very often where it's bright sun and there's tons of snow on the ground. Like it's not
Yeah.
something that you see every day. And I just happened to be out and I didn't have my sunglasses with me, and then I realized, oh crap, that was a mistake.
Mm.
You know, because it really does mess with your eyes quite a bit.
Well,
Well,
and it's
go
not
ahead.
just, oh, sorry, it's not just snow blindness. I found that before it got really bad, I had a couple of treatments of laser. I was driving at night on the 401 was a pretty major highway here. It was at night and it was raining, and the headlights oncoming were glaring off of every drop, and I was blind from the just the reflection from the headlights. And that was the first time that had ever happened to me. I've been driving for 20 years, so it was pretty upsetting that night driving had to stop, and then
Yeah.
here I am, no driving at all. So
Yeah.
that's one thing, if you never drive, you don't miss it, but if you do, you really miss it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's you touch on an interesting point actually, Patrick, because that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize. Like when you have a disability, you're always there's always a baseline of where you start. Like, I mean, I was born with my cerebral palsy, right? But then
Yeah.
as you age, we were talking about aging before we launched the show here. And as you age, you're always kind of giving things up as you go along. And I know, like, for example, my first wife had to deal with that. She had arthrogryposis. She was born with arthrogryposis, and that's a disability where you're born with it and your joints are fused. So she was in a motorized wheelchair her whole life, and it's one of those things that it just, things get worse, and you just have to give up more and more and more. And I guess the parallel I can offer, of course, is like people that are aging, that, like you said, that are used to driving, and then as you get older, like maybe you have to give up driving. But like I was telling you before we launched the show, is like I've never aged before with cerebral palsy. I don't know what it's like, and so when I hit, I'm 55 years old now, for people that don't know, and I noticed when I hit about 49 or 50. All of a sudden my cerebellum in my head, which controls my balance, just was all of a sudden out of whack. And it was a new experience for me, right? I hadn't experienced that before. And so that was one of the things that kind of eventually led to me falling and breaking my hip. But like, it was 5 years later. But I basically was ignoring the signs. Like for 4 or 5 years, I was ignoring the signs of, hey, Neil, maybe you should start thinking about giving up your crutches now. And I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. It's like, oh yeah, I can still do it. I can still do it. I can still do it. But the fact of the matter is, you have to be smart about it. And you have to realize, as you age, you're always going to be, and if you have a pre-existing disability, you're always going to be giving up things. Like, as things go along, it's not going to get better usually.
Yeah.
And you just have to adjust to scale things back and give things up. And I know, like, my previous wife had the same thing, and I'm learning that now, because, like I said, I've never aged with a disability or with cerebral palsy, so I didn't know what it was like. I had no real, like, I had a starting baseline of my pre-existing disability, but I had nothing to go off from that. So I was
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing that when I was to get my new glasses, I had to get a whole new eye test done, and I had already had an eye test done from I call them space savers, spec savers, which I had gone through my eye test and go, Brent, read the chart, right? So I went through eye test, and then, of course, they amplified my prescription, and it threw up my whole peripheral. Like I felt like I was lopsided everywhere I looked. Everything was like curved, and it just threw me right off. I was actually starting to get headaches, because I figured, well, maybe it's just me. I just have to adjust to the new prescription. They made the lenses a lot thicker. And last time I had them really thick was before technology, before lenses became more enhanced. So based on technology, it made them a lot thinner, right? So
Right.
they were made more ultra thin, right? So when I had them really thick, I put them on, and my glasses would be going right down my face, and I'd be kept pushing them up, thinking no, like I could not adjust. So finally, Patrick, I went back, like these glasses aren't working for me. They didn't have any anti-glare. Like it was like they said I had paid for it, and they said, oh yeah, no, it's in there. Well, no, everything I looked at, it was like glare, and it had blue light, and I couldn't adjust it. Neil goes, yeah, there's like something reflecting. I remember I do the shows, and then every time I would look and I'd talk to the guest on there and say I was talking to you, I'd be looking at all I kept seeing was blue, and some people don't mind it, right? But for me, everywhere I looked, I kept seeing like a reflection. It was like it was actually distracting me so much from my concentration level of what I would be wanting to talk about, and I'd be on the sun, and then it would be like glare, like you described about driving at nighttime, right? Well, I'd be seeing that glare, and it would be like, starting to give me like headaches, not migraines, thank gosh, but close to it. And I went back, and so anyway, I went to the other optical place. They had to give me a whole brand new eye test. They said, you know what, let's just whole new eye doctor there, and very professional. And the eye doctor sat down with me. He knew my my eye condition, and he says, so I'm gonna get you to do the same thing, but I'm, like, and just read the chart, do the best you can. I thought, wow, like that was really nice. Like they try. If guess, if you have to guess, I want you to guess, but do you see if you can see it? And if you need to guess, then I'll tell you after if you are right or wrong or how close. Well, I was pretty close. Like he got me to read down some lines. And what he did then, Patrick, was he actually put a pair of, it was almost like binoculars on on here, and he put some lenses in, and this thing was huge on my face. But he says, I want you to now read the chart. I was able to go all the way down, all the way down. He says, can you read the bottom last two lines? I go, no. Okay. So he adjusted something else, and now read. I was like, whoa, all the way down, every single word.
Wow.
Letter. And I was like, my gosh, he said, so that's what 2020 vision's like, Brent. And so I told him the story once upon a time when I was a lot younger, going back decades. I had contact lenses put in my eyes, but my eyes are so small, and unfortunately, it's like getting a large pizza and putting through a drive-through window, small window. It doesn't work. And the eye doctor had trouble even putting them in my eyes because of my eye condition. I have stigmatism on top of my eye condition, so eye movement. So he had to put drops in to slow it down. Yeah, this eye doctor didn't do that. But what he did tell me is that sometimes, conditions stay the same. My condition, thankfully, it's staying the same. But over time, as we age, I'm glad we were talking about this, because over time, as we age, the mind says, yeah, hey, yeah, you can do this. You can do this. The body says, no, you can't do this. Now it comes with vision. Same thing. He said, your vision, your mind says yes, but your vision, you're reading something, and you're straining yourself to try to do more, but you're not able to. What he said, and so what he said to me is that there's an indication on top of your eye condition. There's cataracts. There's a cataract that's slowly developing. Now I'm like, what? And he says, but it could be major, many years, could be decades before it needs to be dealt with. But it's not going to correct your condition. What would happen is, he kind of described, they removed cataracts, he says, and so, it would actually enhance your vision, but not enough where you're going to have to drive.
Right.
And I said, well, I don't miss that because I've never driven. He goes, well, it's like a bicycle. If you rode a bike, I go, I used to ride a bike when I was a kid. Right. So you take it away, and it's like you miss that. Right. So for me, I don't know anything different. But he said, we just have to, as humans, he said, we have to adapt to reality. Reality is, some people will accept, hey, you're going to have cataracts, you're not. And so he kind of helped me with that process, that it's not a bad thing. It's not a scary thing. Because I looked at him when he said that, and I said, I've been told that decades ago. And he goes, right. So it hasn't progressed. So that's a good thing, Brent. That's really good for you. And he said, you do well with your vision. People with your condition, and in some cases, it's a lot worse. But yours is stabilized, and so it's definitely a good thing. And I told him about the show that I do. He says advocating and bringing people on, talking about their conditions, and just letting people know that it's okay. Like, it's okay to talk about their disability. It's okay to let the public know that it's about awareness and bringing the experiences. And so it was like I was promoting the show, and he said he was going to tune into it one day himself. And
Nice.
it's awesome, though, and I was kind of like, I was nervous when he was telling me about, the procedures, this and that, but he says, it's nothing, like, really, like, it's part of nature, right? And so Patrick, so I want to talk about the RDSP. I was wondering if you could jump into and talk to me about that.
Right. Yeah, anybody who's got a permanent disability that is defined by the Canada Revenue Agency, they have a criteria of what they consider a permanent disability, may be able to get the disability tax credit, which is it basically allows you to make about $20,000 a year tax free before you start having to pay taxes. So if you're employed and you have a condition like whatever, even type 1 diabetes is considered a permanent disability. You get that much money tax free. And if you're saving for retirement, or you're on social assistance like me, and that changes when you hit 65 if you live that long, then you get less money from the government, and it changes hands. It goes from here in Ontario from, ODSP will still pay for meds and stuff, but the income part is split between old age security and CPP and whatever else.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real mess. I look forward to the boomers getting disabled so that they have to deal with it, because then they'll change things. They don't change things until it affects them. So, once it does, we will see some changes happen very quickly, I believe. Same with, the older Gen X's who are in power right now. When it starts affecting their families, that's when we'll see some changes. But anyways, the RDSP, it allows you to save for that time, and the government contributes some money for every dollar you put in. It works out to about $3 per dollar that you put in, up to a certain amount. And there is a sweet spot in terms of contribution, because up until you're 49, the government will contribute about $2,000 a year, depending on your income level. 1,000 is a bond and 1,000 is a grant. And essentially you don't have to pay those back unless you try and withdraw it within 10 years of them contributing it. So it's pretty good. If you have a kid who is disabled, they've changed it so that people under 18 can have RDSPs established for them, so they can start contributing. They don't get the contributions until they're 18, but like if you're a parent and you've got a kid and they're going to grow up with a disability, it makes a lot of sense to start putting money away for them, because they may not have an RRSP. They may need their RDSP when they turn 65, right? So anyways, it's one of those things. If you're able to manage your own finances, RDSP is a good way to save some money for that 65 number. Otherwise, if you have someone that you're caring for who is disabled, the RDSP, if they're qualified for it, is a way for saving, essentially for care that you might need when you're in your later years. As I mentioned, I have a brother who has mental challenges, and one of our concerns is for him when the rest of the family is gone. There's going to have to be money to pay for whatever, because I don't believe he'll be able to live on his own. So whether that's a home or what, who knows, but everything costs money, so
Yeah.
so saving is important if you can. And
That's another thing we were talking about before the show. Is I was saying that I was able to contribute to my RDSP, but I only put I only put the first contribution in. I could only afford, because I mean I'm on a fixed income.
yeah,
I mean, you're lucky if you can afford anything at all. Like
yeah, yeah,
even if you can even if you can open an RDSP, right? Because you don't have the money to do it. But I was fortunate enough to have, 1 year. I decided I have a bit of my money. I'm going to open an RDSP, and so that's what I did. But I only had the one time I can contribute, and all other times I had no money. But even with that one contribution, only that one contribution, I'm already up to like over $17,000 with one contribution. Like I just put the first contribution and I just let it sit there.
yeah.
And and so that's pretty good to just do one time. And it's basically gone from, I mean, the first contribution is $2,500.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it went from $2,500 first contribution to 17,000, and I didn't do anything. I just put the $2,500 in, and it just sat there and turned into $17,000. So
how old were you? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, go ahead, sir.
Okay.
How old were you, Neil, when you opened that account?
I was trying to remember. I think I was about 42. So yeah.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I went to a workshop. About 3 months ago, and one of the MPs, federal MPs, was doing an open house, like a workshop, just for us to come in and listen to a presentation about our RDSPs and encouraging disabled Canadians to apply for it. But here's the caveat, though, and I know you mentioned it also, Patrick, is up to age 49, and that's the thing, is that the bureaucrats, they're stubbornly not wanting to change that age. So he said, well, I mean, it was Honorable Peter Julian, MP Peter Julian, and wonderful presentation, and he talked about it on the show here too before, and he explained that it's retroactive back to 10 years.
Yeah.
So I said to him, oh, okay, like we had questions, Q&A. So I put my hand up. He said, yes, Brent. I go, okay, so could I get that retroactive back 10 years? He goes, no. It's up to, like, you have to, if you turn 49, you can't have retroactive back when you're well over that. They'll go back to 10 years if you're eligible under that age category, which is like, wow. But I do encourage people to apply for it. If you are under age 49, definitely apply for it, because you're going to need that later on. And like Patrick's right. I mean, if you can make up to 65 years old, great. I mean, but I guess the question I have for you too, Patrick, is like, what happens if somebody needs to dip into it, because of cost of living and all these other, one-time gestures that the federal government throws and says, here you go, one-time payment, that's going to solve everything. But then people need to dip into their RDSP. What are the ratifications, like the repercussions by doing so?
Ooh, it's pretty brutal. A few years ago, I had to withdraw some money to cover rent, and I withdrew $2,000. I had 30,000 in the account at the time, and by the time I took my 2,000 out, I had less than 20 in the account.
Oh.
Now, what they do is they take back the contributions from the last 10 years, up to the last 10 years. So if let's say you take out $1,000 and they've put in 10 over the last 10 years, they'll withdraw, they'll claw back their contributions over the last 10 years, up until the time that you're withdrawing. So that can be a lot of money, and it hurt. I'm in my early 40s, so I get hopefully some time to build it up. But that's another thing that I've just learned too, is it's not just if you have to dip into it that there's ramifications. There's also ramifications if, like, I've just learned that I have kidney disease, and it's progressing somewhat quickly. So, the doctor has been good about getting stuff done, but it got me thinking, like, oh, now I guess I better get things in order just in case, and what happens if you die before the 10 years has passed from the last contribution from the government? They claw that back too. So, it comes out of your estate, or
that's what happened with my first wife, because she did pass away, and so her contribution was completely shut down.
Yeah.
And they just closed her contribution, and
Wow.
they just gave me back the original contribution of what did I say, 2,000 or $2,500.
Mhm.
And that's all I got back from her was the original $2,500, and
that's
the rest of it
Claw
went,
right off, yeah.
poof. Yeah.
It's
Sorry
like
for
those
your-
unicorns, like
Yeah.
sorry
Yeah.
for your loss, Neil. That's terrible.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it was 10 years ago now, but
Oh, still,
yeah.
mhm.
Wow.
what, the thing is, $2,500, if you're having a proper burial and all that, hardly goes far at all.
Mhm.
And that's another thing that they don't tell anybody really on ODSP here, or I don't know how it is out there. But they don't really tell you what happens at end of life for people that are on ODSP, like how burial costs go, and do you get a potter's funeral, or do you get
I've got lots of stories related to that, because like I was on disability when she passed, and of course that's when all of the thing about the clawbacks happened. Because
Yeah.
but before I get to that, you talked about the burial thing. Well, when I let the ministry know here in BC, I let the ministry know that she had passed. They're like, well, we can pay for the burial costs. And I said, well, that's nice. And they said, well,
Generous.
you just have to give us some stuff. So I gave them all the information, and they just sat on it and sat on it and sat on it. And I thought, well, are you going to make the decision on it? Because everything has to happen pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
And they just kept sitting on it and sitting on it and sitting on it. And I said, well, what's going to happen with this? Because something I have to pay. Like I just you can't just sit on it and not tell me. And eventually they got back to me and said, unfortunately, Neil, we can't pay for your burial or your wife's burial, because we've determined that you make too much money, or that you the settlement that your wife got for her basically through her work, she got a lump sum payment, and they said, well, because of that lump sum payment that you got, we're not going to pay for the burial. But they strung me along for like right to the bitter end, where I was like, and then they finally said, oh, sorry, we can't do it. And I'm like, okay, great, thanks. And it's just like, you could have told me that right at the beginning and I would have been fine with it, but you just strung me along for 2 weeks, and then or whatever it was, like right to the very end. It wasn't 2 weeks, but it was like about a week or so.
Yeah, and if it was for them, they'd take care of it right away.
Yep.
It was affecting their life.
Do you recall, Neil? Do you recall what it cost to do the process?
To do the burial and everything?
Yeah.
10
years ago, of course, but
I think it was I don't know. It was under 10, but so I think it was around because I got her a grave marker. I'm including the grave marker and the coffin and the whole bit. So I think it was like maybe around 7,000 or something. I kind of forget.
Well,
something like that, but I don't really remember, to be honest. But
So I guess today at least double that, at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know where I was living before was a small town, and it had one cemetery there, and the plots were going for, like, people that had bought their plots 10 years ago were now selling their plots because, let's say you were married and you got divorced, you might not want to be buried with the person that you bought the plot with, things
Yeah.
happen, right?
Right.
So anyways, there's like a market for buying and selling burial
Yeah.
plots because
Oh,
there's
geez.
limited space, right?
Mhm.
Anyways, I mean, it's kind of morbid, but it's important to plan for because 7 grand, let's call it 15 today for a basic,
Yeah.
pine box and a
The
and a-
one nice thing that was available to me is that there was a cemetery in Surrey that basically I don't know if it was subsidized by the government or something, but it was cheaper to go with this particular one. And again, I don't know if they get subsidized in some way, but yeah. So the government let me know about this one place I could do the burial, and it was quite a bit cheaper.
Well, it's important. It's
So
important to plan for this stuff. It's like financial planning. Like if you have
mhm.
the ability to plan, I don't want when the time comes for it to be a big cost for anybody else.
Mhm. And the thing too is there's so much misinformation. I mean, when you have a spouse pass away, or it's a very traumatic thing. There's so
Yep.
many things that are going on, right? And I really tried to let the ministry know, like this. I let them know everything that was going on, and I wasn't going into the office because I mean I just like mentally I just wasn't
Yeah.
prepared. So I just was calling them from my phone, and I also wrote them letters with all of the financial particulars of what was happening, and all my costs and what was coming in and stuff like that. So they knew everything. I was just disclosing everything, and
Yep.
so I sent them all this information, and then so then on the phone a guy told me, well, okay, so until you get everything sorted out with the bank and all this estate planning and everything gets changed over properly, we're just gonna the term that the guy used, he says, we'll just park your PWD status. We'll just park it right now for like a month or something, and then you can just come back and you can let us know like in a month or something when you're ready, and then we'll redo it. Well, it ended up being like it went from like 1 month to 2 months and it went on to the like 6 months or more.
Wow.
Like it was a lot of estate planning crap, right?
Mhm.
And but so I don't know, I'm kind of getting off topic, but
That's okay.
there's so much that I was told, like I told them like this is the amount of money that I'm gonna get from my wife, like the survivor's pension, and I said, how is that going to affect how is that going to affect my PWD social assistance? And so they gave me all these numbers, and then, again, this is over the phone, and I phoned twice too. I didn't just phone once. I didn't trust just phoning once. I phoned twice, talked to two different people, and I got the same numbers from two different people though, and they said, oh yeah, like I got the same misinformation from two different people because they said, I said, are they gonna take a whole bunch of money off of me if I get this if I get the survivor's pension from my wife? And both times I was told no.
Oh,
I was told no, you're going to be fine. And so I was basing that the opinion of two people saying no, everything is going to be fine. I was like, okay, great. So I'm going to have like about $2,000, right?
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, I find out that the information of the two people was completely wrong. I mean, this is from the ministry. This is from the ministry office. The two people were wrong. I got the $700 was completely clawed back, and I was like floored because I went from, because my wife passed away. Of course, you take that one person off of, and that makes sense. Of course, I'm only down to one person, like me and my son. So of course you're going to take off the allotment that my wife got. That makes sense, right? So with myself and my son, like I should have got like around $1,200. It was about around $1,200 at the time for me and my son. That's what I should have got.
Yeah.
Or it was actually a little under. It was maybe closer to $1,100 actually. And then, but then I found out that they're going to claw back over $700, and so then I was left with $400 from the provincial government. So I went from $1,200 that I $1,100 to $1,200 that I thought I was going to get down to $400, and it's like,
God.
and you guys, and I was thinking to myself, you guys told me different, and then. But then, like, trying to prove that they told me wrong is like another thing. And so everybody's covering their own ass and saying, well, we would never do that or whatever. And I said, well, I want you to investigate this thing. And they said, well, we did. We investigated and we found there was no issues. But all this thing, I'm like. One of the things I was going to say is what I said to them, like I sent you all these letters of all this information of what all this money I was getting, and they said, well, we don't have the letters, and I said, you mean you lost the letters? And they're like, yeah, we don't have them, and anyway, the bottom line is actually they made me. I was talking about earlier where they said they were going to park my PWD, where they're just going to park it for a couple of months. The bottom line is that they made me reapply like I was just a total Joe Blow, like brand new newbie guy off the street, the stranger, like some total stranger to the system. They made me reapply from like ground zero, like point one. And it's like, are you kidding me? You said you were going to park like in the middle of the most stressful point in my life.
Yeah.
First thing they said, we're going to pay for your burial, your wife's burial. Oh, sorry. No, whoops. No. And then it's like, am I going to lose any money? It was like, nope. Twice they told me nope. And then it's like, whoops, sorry. And then it's like, oh, sorry, we lost your letters, and it's all this stuff. And it's like, they kept making mistakes.
Yeah.
And then they came back and said, well, we did an audit of things and we couldn't find any mistakes that we made. And I said, okay, that's great for you. Just think that you made no mistakes. But I kind of beg to differ,
You know what they say about who works for the government? It's grade C students that work for the government, right? So I mean,
and that's the problem, right? They just started going through and editing and redacting out. Oh, we didn't have this, and that kind of goes with decision making on when a person moves somewhere. Like I remember I was told at their office, yes, Brent, and the same thing. There was Sonia and I we went there to their office, and because our landlord where we moved to, it was a brand new place. They just wanted to show us to show them, where is your income, like how much are you making, and a lot of places do that. They want to have either rent receipts, or if it's a disability, they want to have your declaration of what is your entitlement, what is your net amount that you get per month. So I went to the ministry's office, and I remember there was some of the ladies working there. They knew who I was, they knew who Sonia was, and so she went to one wicket, I went to another one, and can I help you? And I go, yeah, I need this form printed out. What for? Of course, like, why you need this? Well, to my new landlord. Okay, you found a new landlord. Oh, okay. And how much is the rent? Well, it was $1,775. Okay, so between the two of us, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the ministry is just like, okay, yeah, you realize that's a lot, but no problem. But you know what? This is the amount. Originally, it was 1,510. We lost our one unit, like I explained before. We had to go into another unit, and if not, we had to leave the building. Well, we couldn't find anywhere to rent, so we had no choice but to take the higher unit.
Yeah.
Pay more. Of course, the landlord loved that one. Otherwise, you pay liquid damages clause, which is equal to 1 month of rent to leave the
Just
building.
move across the hall and they jack it up $200.
And then we moved out. Yeah, they rented out to some Albertans, and it was like $1,600 a month. And nothing, like it was brand new place, like nothing changed. So anyway,
Yeah,
so
you know what? Vacuuming is a renovation, right? You know,
yeah.
like,
But
yeah.
I remember at the ministry's office, though, they said, this is the amount going forward. And I said, oh, okay. So I gave it to my landlord, and she's like, good, perfect. Yeah, okay. If you guys want the place, to sign here and we'll make it happen. I'll get back to you. And so based on the amount, and what kind of what Neil said, like it was based on what they said. Like 2 people told him, well, there was like 2 or 3 ladies who told us the same thing. And I verified and said, are you sure? Yes, we're sure. This is the amount going forward, Brent. So it doesn't matter who you rent from in the future. This is the amount, and of course, it'll probably go up over time, but this is the base amount. Well, and they clawed all that back after a supplement amount. Now, amazing is we got this one new 125 increase. Oh boy!
Yeah.
Guess what? Guess what? The base amount is now exactly what it was when we moved into the new place that we moved into. Wow. So like now, so
and to think you could have probably kept your place in Langley.
Yeah, I could have kept that place because it was based on that. And the manager, she lost it on me, Neil and Patrick, and everybody watching. Like the manager was living that, and I like now I understand. Back then, I'm thinking like, why are you like freaking out at me? Like it was based on what the ministry told me, and it affected our decision making. She's like, well, so you're basically saying that you're not going to be able to keep the place. I go, yeah, like we're going to have to move. Well, silly us, learning lesson. We had given our notice in. Okay, like we just gave our notice in, and we figured, okay, well, we'll find somewhere. Like, you know, we've got good references. We'll find somewhere to rent. So we winged it. Bad move. Like that was not smart. Like what we did. Like we just handed our notice in. We figured, okay, like landlords would say, well, call us on the 1st or the 2nd of the next month. Well, we had just handed our notice and we figured, okay, hey, you know, we'll find something, and yeah, we'll take the place. Places we kept saying, oh, well, no, you need to be making 40 to 50% of your income to rent, which was the other way around. It was of saying you got to be making $5,000 or $4,500 because we want you to live comfortably. And so that was the other way around. And we were like, okay, this is maybe one of those one-off situations. 8 places, corporate landlords kept saying this. I thought, okay, when we were told, no, we have to decline you, we can't rent to you because we want you to live comfortably. I said, well, you said you would accept a person with disability renting here. Like we pay our rent. Yeah, but you got to be making like $4,500 a month. I said, well, and our landlord, our manager kept saying, well, I haven't received a phone call. So finally, like they called again. She reached out to the landlord. The other one, she made a call outbound, which normally they don't do. So she phoned there, like, what the hell is going on here? Say, yeah, sorry, we're not going to have to rent to them. Well, why not? Like, I mean, they pay the rent on time. I would rent to them. I mean, they're renting here, and I don't want them to move, but they feel that they have to move because the rent's too high, because the government chose not to listen to them after asking them, what would happen if we took away this money? Like, what would happen? The media asked us. I said, we'd have to move. So decision making based
and I mean, the government should have known that too. I mean,
they knew that
they can't be ignorant of that.
They
can't be, right? I mean, they don't get off with they can't just play ignorance and will say, well, we didn't know. They had to have known the repercussions of everything.
Well, and that's why when I said to the ministry staff, well, we were told to basically tell the clients that's the amount going forward. That's what we thought. Well, they must have been told, that, and then there was a 360 change of plans, because it's actually in the mandate letter. There's a mandate letter now. They did a basic income study, decided not to go with it. October 28th of 2021. I'm not sorry, not October, January 28th. I got jumped forward there. January 28th of 2021. It actually says one of the high recommendations in there of restore $300. That $300, I mean, it changed people's lives, their decision making on what they can and cannot do. The government wants to see people housed. Well, in order to do that, you got to listen to the advocates and people lived experience. If you don't, then hey, like what's going to happen? People choosing MAID. I mean, my gosh, like, and I mean, yeah, that's a decision. If they're terminally ill, I get it, I understand. But if it's because they are being legislated to like deep poverty because the government's failure to deliver on a human rights issue of just your standards, your standard of life, having a roof over your head, giving you your food, your bills, the money for your bills, maybe go away somewhere, save up. But they're not even meeting that obligation. And I think the UN is even appalled that this is even happening. But for some reason, they've been told to keep a deaf ear to it. I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know, maybe money. Maybe money's telling them not. I have no clue.
I always have the three monkeys, lined up doing this,
Yeah, kind of going like this. And,
I've learned. I don't know how it is there, but here the ODSP offices, the social workers there, they're kind of mini Hitlers. Like, you can get really good ones, and then you can get ones that want to make your life hell. I moved from Barrie to London, which is about 4 hours away, to try living somewhere else. The rent was supposed to be cheaper, and there was supposed to be a reimbursement for the moving expense, according to the worker in Barrie. When I got to London, I connected with the ODSP office there. I was told, oh no, we don't have such a thing, and moving costs $1,000. So, that was too bad. And by the way, I want to audit everything you've ever had. So I said, okay, well, I got a banker's box full of things. I used to have a business, so you're welcome to it. And she changed her mind. So anyways, from that point forward, every time I deal with them, I record the call because they record the call and they're not going to share the recording if they F up, so it's all about cover your ass. And we got to do it ourselves because, you can't take them at their word. They lie or they don't know and then they lie.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like in my case, of course, like, again, like when you're going through such a traumatic event, like you depend on people
honesty
to know their shit, right?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Like I'm
honesty,
I'm going through like some really serious crap, and the last thing I want to do is to go through more crap created by some incompetent decisions at the administrator's office. Like I can't be held responsible for incompetence, like especially in my state, the state that I was in, like
you're emotional and
I can't be expected to like, let me check your work here.
Yeah.
make sure you're doing the right thing. I mean, I was so far beyond what I was capable of at that time that I was just trusting that the people I was talking to knew what they were saying to me. And they were wrong on everything. It's like, yes, we can cover your cost of your funeral. Whoops, no, we can't. We're gonna park your PWD. We can do that, no problem. Whoops, no, we can't. You have to start over again. All this kind of stuff, right? And it's like, yes, you're not going to be penalized with a clawback. Whoops, sorry, yes, you are. You're going to go from like $1,200 down to $400. Like everything they got wrong. It's like I can understand like maybe you got one thing wrong, but they just did everything wrong. And like I said, at that point in your life when you got so much shit going on, when with a death of a spouse, I don't want to check people's work.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't be responsible for checking somebody's work. Is that what you're telling me? Is that correct?
It makes me think that communicating in writing is the only way to do it, you know, so that you
Well,
can go back on it.
I did, and then they lost the letters.
I mean, from
I'm sorry,
them,
we lost your
from
letters. I'm
them,
sorry. Yeah.
just pretend you're deaf and they have to put it in writing, you know, like
Yeah.
I've got a new
Yeah.
disability. I can only read
Yeah.
what you're saying, you know.
Well, you know, the frustrating part too is when you're told by the ministry too is that, oh, you're going to put yourself into harm's way. You're gonna put yourself into a dire situation. Well, moving to a more expensive place, and I said, that's on me. That's on me to make that decision. As long as I got enough food on the table, I got enough to pay the bills. Hey, yeah, but you should have enough left over to maybe extracurricular activities. Really? Oh, what? Were you guys going to give a rate increase? No, the point is you're going to put yourself into a bad situation. I go, don't worry about that. That's on me. And I remember filing a complaint, an actual formal complaint against the actual worker who I said, who belittled, talked down to me. And I said, I had a mother. I don't need another mother. I said, do not talk that way to me as a child. Boy, I started freaking right out on the phone. And oh yeah, like I started yelling and swearing and cursing, Neil and Patrick. And it got to a point where the ministry, the lady, she hung up the phone on me. I thought, wow, are you kidding me? So I went and I filed a complaint, and I guess they reached out and they worked her up. Apparently, whoever she was apologized. I said, not good enough. Well, what do you want? What do you want as done as a resolution? I go, going forward, show respect and dignity to other fellow disabled people in the province. I said, do not talk down. Like, if she doesn't want her job, I said, tell her to quit. Just tell her to quit her job. Like, she's not doing any favors to, like, for me or to anybody else. She goes, well, you wouldn't be entitled to any crisis supplements. I go, crisis supplement? Well, you should be giving enough anyway. People shouldn't have to apply for a crisis supplement. God, I mean, you know,
and what happens there? I mean, I hear about the housing crisis in BC, sounding like it's, you know, here it's bad. ODSP pays $1,200 a month at the, you know, base level for a single person, but rent where I live for a basement is now $1,200. So you know, like you're going to have roommates no matter what when you're disabled. A proper above ground apartment starts at $1,800. So you know, there's no way that a single person can get by on what we get. But the thing is, if you lose your place, you also lose the shelter allowance.
Yeah.
Because
same here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not like you can save up. I mean, if you had a car, you can live in it while you're saving up your first and last. You can't do that because there's, you know.
Well, that's what they did here, Patrick, is they gave $125 increase. However, it's a splashy announcement, a good PR announcement. That 125 didn't go to every single disabled recipient. It only went to ones in market housing. Only though, here's the thing, only if their rent was substantially above their shelter portion. So if their rent is way above, like ours is like just over $700. I pay just over $700. So mine's way above that threshold. But if say my rent was at, my God, if I could go back decades, that's how old the rates are, decades old, right? I mean, they're archaic. So that's what they're basing it upon. They're basing it upon 80s, 90s rates right now, right? There's, you know, so if I were to go back and say, if my rent was say $395, they would have given me a $20 increase. They would have given me a $20 increase, said, here you go, here's $20 increase instead of 125. And so, and what they did was they gave it to the shelter portion. And I told them before, do not give it to the shelter. You give it to the support. And actually, and I've been advocating a lot lately, is I'm saying, like, get rid of it. Like, I want every province who has the shelter, get that out of there. Get that out of there and give a brand new amount. Don't even call it support, call it whatever it is, like a brand new name. And I had a meeting with the minister in BC regarding that. And she knew the answer, but she said, well, you know, it's these great ideas.
Well, you know,
I like how they advertised it though too. They said, I think it was the minister's own tweet. She says, we've increased the shelter allowance by 33%. And I mean, it's true. And it sounds awesome.
Oh,
You're like 33%. That's great. But I mean, when you're starting at what is it, 375? It's like
after
it's
16 years, and there's
Yeah.
nowhere to put that amount.
Well,
anyway.
it's crazy, but usually Alberta is pretty conservative, and they're kind of backwards. But when it comes to their assistance for significantly impaired people, or whatever they call it, disabled,
Ash.
they've got
Asia.
ASH or whatever they call it. There, if you inherit a house, it doesn't affect your income. Like
Wow.
if your parents die, or you win the lottery, or I guess that would put you out, but you know what I mean? Like if you get a house, as long as you can carry it, and it doesn't affect your income. But here, anything over the $40,000 threshold, and you're off. You're off
They
the
claw that rate off you. I mean, because their rates are, oh geez, they're like over $1,800 a month. And if you get any other subsidies above that, like you're closer to 1,900. And I mean, I had a guest down there recently, Cassandra. Yeah, we've talked to Cassandra before, and her hometown is in BC. Like she grew up in BC. Her parents live in BC. She desperately would love to move back to BC, but she said she can't afford to move back here because she would take like a good $500 to $600 hit less off her income. And it's so frustrating because people are trapped, right? It's like where we are right now. We live in Victoria. People say, "Well, oh my God, I'd love to live in Victoria." I go, "It's nice to come to and visit as a tourist, but to live here, I mean, I shouldn't say it is terrible. But
if you could do a mulligan, do-over, and say,
or I could live in the castle. Remember?
Yeah, but and if you could have stayed where you were in Langley, though, that's what I mean.
It was everything was in walking distance, and everything was right there. I mean, I had transit pretty well. If I want to take a shuttle bus and I didn't want to take a conventional bus, I could just walk up there. And it was contracted out by the bus company, but they had their own individual bus companies running it. But you could have a bus pass. You could just show it to them and get on, or tap it on there on their same system. Go beep, and it would work on theirs. And that one ran every hour. It still does every hour. You go up to Walmart or Superstore or whatever it is. It would take you around there, do your stuff, and come back, or you can come back to your bus.
There's something new experience of being low vision. I'm still low vision, even though it's 20/30. Because of the peripheral and the visual field and stuff. Anyways, I had to take the bus the other day, and normally I get rides. I'm lucky, but this day I couldn't. The car was getting repaired, so I had to get the bus. They don't put the signs are not double-sided for the bus stops here in town. Like it's only on the one side. So if you're walking from the wrong direction to try and find the bus stop, you don't know where. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's not accessible at all. And Google and the city's mapping system disagree on where things are. So if you're trying to get directions, forget it. You just walk until you find the place. Here, buses are every half hour for the most part until I think they stop running at 11 o'clock at night, and then that's it. But for the most part, it's every half hour. If you want, they have a accessible transit, and that can take you directly to your appointments or whatever. You have to book a week in advance though to get that. So it's not like the shuttle service. I guess we're considered a large city, but it's like a small town when it comes to the transit. And I coming from a place of being a driver to a passenger now, it's brutal living in suburbs without having wheels. Like, when they talk about transit strategies and things like that, great if you're in a city, but if you're anywhere beyond an hour from a major center, forget it. There is no transit.
That's what we have. The problem here is we live on a main bus route here, and it's every 15, 17, 18 minutes, depending on the bus, which is not too bad. later on in the evening, it turns every half hour. Then it turns to, you know, like every hour, like much, much later in the evening. There's a couple bus routes that are every 39 minutes. So I really tried not to take those ones too much because I could end up getting one of the other buses in like 2 buses in that same time frame, or 3 almost. Now, if I go into the suburbs of Victoria, so you got Victoria, but then you got Saanich, which is a bigger area than Victoria. It's more spread out. Their bus service in some of the rural areas, or some of them are every hour and a half. I found out. I've never taken their buses, but I've heard that. You know, of course, I'd be bitching, complaining about the transit. Well, I was told from a couple other people who, you know, who've lived here for many years. They're like, "Oh, Brent, try some of the rural areas. You won't like it, and then you're gonna be grown." I go, "What?"
I lived south of London in a small town, and the bus was once a week. It would show up to the town. And they had, you know, if you wanted to go to church, they would, you know, the priest would organize for someone else to come and get you. There was no cab service. There was nothing. And this was a half hour away or 45 minutes away from London, which there's 500,000 people that live there. So, I mean, you know, this little town, it was maybe 500 people, but there wasn't even a bus passing through. You know, you couldn't get anywhere. It was not uncommon to see people driving their riding lawnmowers to get to places, because I guess they didn't have a car or license.
They ride a lot or get there faster than pretty much.
Well, there was no other way. Especially,
a horse, ride a horse, maybe.
Well, yeah.
And, you shared a few days ago with me, Brent, our previous premier here in BC, John Horgan, saying, "Just give them back their bus pass."
Oh yeah,
you know, because of course we've had one of the pink unicorn things where the provincial government took away the yearly bus pass that we used to have. It was $45 for the year. And they just like poof, they took it away because they had to make equity in the system. So they took something away that was benefiting 99.99% of the people, and to make it equitable for the 0.001%, they took it away and said, we're gonna make it fair for that 0.001.
Wow. I remember after the fallout with that, because I still have a picture that pops up on Google all the time, and I had put it to Facebook, but I know Sonia has the same photo because she was tagged in it and she was in the photo. So and I have a picture of me with a minister and the former premier now, because of course when the photo was taken, he wasn't the premier at the time. He was actually in the opposition. And so I have a photo. I'll have to show it to you one day. I'll have you on again, and I'll pop it on the screen. But I remember we had a luncheon in his office at the legislature, and we were invited to come. And so we had these little passes you could walk through and all these hallways, right? And I'm like, oh, hey, this is great, right? Tap this. Where's this door go? Beep, door opens. Because otherwise it's restricted access, right? Only MLAs or staff.
Let's see your dog's face. I want to see.
This is a rescue. His name's Finley. Look there, Finley. Look over there. No, look at the screen. Look who's that.
Hi there.
Hey.
Finley is just over a year old, and he's part poodle, and we think he's either Labradoodle or Golden Doodle, but a black one.
He's quite big.
He's about 75 pounds. Oh, geez.
He's like, pay attention to me now.
Yeah. He's the guy. This poor boy, he was, we got him for free because his first owner, I guess you could call him a rescue. His first owner, it was, stop it.
I feel like I'm watching a WWE match or something.
And the dogs.
Talk about a red flag. This Finley, he was less than 4 months old when his first owner, the boyfriend or husband, kicked him with a steel toe on. Like imagine kicking a 4-month-old puppy. It would have been,
Oh,
like 20 pounds at the most. Anyways, fractured his pelvis. And he spent the first 10 months of his life basically being rehabilitated. And we just happened to find him on Kijiji. Someone was offering him. He's a great dog. Housebroken when we got him, so there's no issues like that. And my other dog, George, he's a 140-pound Saint Bernard. He tolerates Finley, but they okay, you're back. But Finley is actually the boss at 75 pounds.
wow, wow. It's
Yappy and scrappy, right?
Well, we're gonna probably wrap up now, Brent. We've been on for about an hour, so
Oh, sure.
sure.
you have closing comments?
Yeah. I'll hand it over to you, Patrick, first.
Well, you know what, I'm glad we kind of got caught up and we're talking about the finances thing, because I think it's often overlooked. We are fortunate in a way that it's fixed. We know what we're getting every month. I remember being a contract worker and being, casual labor or being on call, and you could never predict what your month was going to be. Here we know our month always sucks, but at least we know it's going to suck. When you're working on call, you could have a great month and the next month could not be. So, they say that we're not very financially literate in Canada, and I would like to see an effort to help people with disabilities and everybody else increase the financial literacy.
Do you remember listening to Steve Martin? One of his old comedy records was the Google Phonic stereo. Remember, did you ever
No,
listen to that one
no.
about the Google Phonic stereo? Well, you have to look that up.
Okay.
Steve Martin Google Phonic stereo, because he's talking about going into a stereo place, and the salesman is telling him all about this stuff about how wonderful the stereo is. And I mean, I'm gonna butcher it, but anyway, he's like this Google Phonic stereo, he's like, this is shit one and this is shit two. And it's like that's kind of what it is for Ontario, right? This is shit one, and Ontario and BC, it's like, this is shit one and this is shit two.
One pile here, one pile there.
I was really hopeful. I was really hopeful when they started talking about a national strategy, but that's 5-10 years away at the least, I think. Before anything, the job of government seems to be to prevent things from happening.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it. With my ending comments, I'd like to, first of all, I'd like to, thank you, Patrick, for coming on again, and we'll do this again very soon. We'll do another part 2, part 3. I always say that, and having you back on, we'll continue on where we left off. But my ending comment, kind of in relation to talk about rates. I mean, I want to see the potential for an amount to be given, like immediate, like a DERB, like a disability emergency relief benefit to help disabled Canadians across this wealthy country. As politicians keep saying, right, that rhetoric, oh, we live in a wealthy country. Well, if we do, then prove it. I actually dare you to prove it to me and all the other fellow disabled Canadians across this country and get an amount out. You proved that you could do it with CERB, and it came out in no time at all, right? Sure, it went out to some people that obviously that didn't need it. I mean, even the CRAs, apparently there's a huge audit going on that there was amounts that were given out to their employees that didn't need it.
Didn't it also go to dead people or something too?
It did. It went out to dead people also. So because I remember Trudeau saying, well, reporter says, well, how about if they don't know if they qualify? You know what? Let's just get it out there. We'll figure it out later. I always remember that one line. And I'd get up in the morning, watch the news. Sonia'd say, "Hey, the Trudeau show's on." I go, "Oh, yay, yay."
Yeah,
So let's
yeah.
watch this. And then I'd figure next day they're going to mention Canadians with disabilities. Nope. Next day, nothing. Finally, they did. And then, as we know, kind of a recap of, oh, they're going to make this announcement. So then that's when the bill went through, Bill C-35. The House got dissolved. Call an election because we didn't want to deal with it. No, they're just disabled people. We don't want to deal with that. One day, we passed first reading of the bill. Poof, next day, call an election. That bill died on the table. So they relaunched it. And as we know, Bill C-22, the framework is extremely weak. My fear, and I'm watching this, I mean, everybody, like, everyone watching this, like, I want what's best also for everybody too. Like, I want to see an adequate livable income for every disabled Canadian in this country, right? I want to see the politicians, the policymakers, and there are some really good ones that are on our side who have been advocating, right? They've been advocating very hard of getting an emergency amount out. I know they want to get this bill, get going faster, right? Because in 18 months from now, I don't want to see what's going to happen. It's the outcome's probably not very good.
Well, you're a lot nicer than I am. I'm tired of all the assholes online that say, you're just a sponge and whatever, trying to get disability. I'd like them to be disabled and experience it, go through it. And, or a family member of theirs, because that's the only time things are going to change is when it starts hitting more people. And sadly, maybe it's a cynic in me, but I think as the population ages and, more and more are over 65, you're going to see that's when, disability starts increasing with age. Age-related disability is, that's the number one kind of disability there is. So nobody cares about it until it affects them,
exactly.
Hate to say.
Well, you made a great point, Patrick, because I mean, this is going to seem like I'm off topic, but it's not, because we've always made the point of, like, if you don't vote, you're not allowed to complain, right? Kind of thing. You're not allowed to have an opinion.
Yeah.
But same thing, it should be like, if you don't have a disability, you shouldn't have an opinion either. Like, there's so many people that are speaking for disabled that aren't disabled themselves, and
don't even know anybody.
In my opinion, like, you don't have any right to say anything or to do anything because you have no lived experience. So what are you doing up there speaking for me when you have no understanding of what it is to be disabled? So what are you doing up there speaking for me when you have nothing no idea?
Or they profess that they know everything about every disability that there is, and they profess that I'm the king, and they're all going to listen to me, or whoever, right? I mean, and it's all about lived experience. And some of these organizations out there, I just baffled. Some of them are now very silent, extremely silent, because now, and there's still some other good ones that are out there, but there's other ones that are silent. Now, there's a reason why. Well, because now it's saying, hey, they didn't. They kept pushing the narrative, saying to get this bill is going to get through. It's going to get the money out. Well, now I guess it's like, oh, wait a minute, 18 months now. 18 months, really? They already know. The officials know who is disabled. All they have to go is through CRA.
Yep.
And they know. And even if they couldn't, and if they still don't know who's disabled, all the federal government has to do is contact each province and go to their finance minister and say, pull a list of who's disabled on your system. Give a master list. They all send it in. Boom, done.
But also too, like, I mean, you and I have seen lots of things on Twitter where they'll say, that we're so and so is meeting with a disability committee today, and they'll post a photo, and how many wheelchairs do you see in the photo? Zero, right? So it's like, what kind of committee is that? What kind of representation is that when you're saying you're a disability committee, but there's zero representation of a disability at the table?
Yeah,
it's like
paper and a pen.
to me, it's like, if we wanted to discuss women's issues without a woman present,
Yeah.
like, come on. It's just,
Like-
it's messed
Like
up.
if I have a penis, I shouldn't be speaking about women's issues, really.
but you might identify as a woman.
I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
You got to watch
Yeah,
out. It's that
That's
time
a
of
whole
year.
that's a whole other ball of wax. I'm not going to touch that one.
Yeah, no, but I know what you mean, though. It's like speaking for other people who are not there to kind of represent or speak to be there to kind of stand up and say how it affects their lives.
Yeah,
it's like having everybody, all PWD, at a table of saying, this is how it's going to benefit me. This is how it's going to benefit me, rather than having a whole bunch of non-disabled people at a table saying, well, this is how I feel is best overall for the whole society. It doesn't work that way. I remember hearing of these round table discussions. We used to have ones about rentals and like how does these policies affect your lives? Well, how about like rent control or subsidized housing? And now I'll have you on again. We're gonna kind of dive into like some of that those topics. But we had a whole list of all these topics, and rents at that time were starting to kind of go up.
Yep. Now
they've ballooned, and none of those policies, zero of those policies have been implemented in.
But we're gonna get
is landlord BC was actually in the room at the time. Like we were all having kind of like brainstorming ideas, different tables, and having ideas, right? And so we'd have these little piece of paper, sticky little piece of papers, put them up on a board. Landlord BC was there, and they all, no, hey, we don't want to hear this. We don't want to see this, right?
Oh, here in Ontario, rent control has been abolished. There are people that are getting 30% increases for their next year rent, sometimes higher. When you're month to month and you don't have a lease anymore, they can do what they want, but we're getting 1.5 million homes built by 2030. So, we got that to look forward to.
Something to look forward to, but but meanwhile, like 1.5 million people come into the country this year alone.
Meanwhile,
hey, we got a housing crisis, but hey, we'll figure it out later. I mean,
we should start distributing cardboard boxes for people to,
sure.
Refrigerator boxes. Remember having those?
Or tents.
Yeah. My mom's cats used to play in those boxes all the time, or paper bags. They get in there, the bag starts moving around. Hey, what's in here?
Who thought that'd be our next place to live, eh?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So, Patrick, next time when I have you on there, we'll definitely dive into that. That's a great topic.
Yeah. And are you guys going to continue on with Twitter turning into X now?
Yeah, who knows, right? It's it's beginning to be the death knell of Twitter, isn't it?
Well, here's the thing on that is that I saw a message the other day. There was a guy named Brent Manuel. Actually, when I used to have my Twitter space, he used to drop all the time. I'd say, "Hey, Brent, how's it going?" "Oh, fine. How are you?" I go, "I'd like to have you on the show one day." "Oh, yeah." But anyway, he sent a message out the other day, and I saw it. I'm like, "Oh." So he said something about I guess I could sense that he was mad because his direct messages wouldn't work. He said apparently he had reached his limit. He couldn't receive any more messages. So I said, "Well, how many messages is the limit?" "I don't know," he said. So Elon, way to go. Bravo.
I never really cared for Zuckerberg, but I don't know that I care for Elon much better. So pick your poison, and I guess Facebook and Threads, I don't know if you've tried it, but Threads isn't bad. The downside of Threads is there's no hashtags yet. So, it's hard to find things.
Yeah, everybody's talking about Threads, so I'll have to check it out.
I heard about that.
It's basically Twitter light, it's just but they had 30 million people sign up for the first day. So, it's a Twitter killer. But Elon did that all himself. He killed Twitter.
Well, one of the reasons why I like to push our YouTube channel and things like my webpage is because of it seems that Twitter just keeps getting more and more crazy by the day. So that's that's why.
There's the bird.
That's gonna be worth something someday.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I like to plug. I like to plug our YouTube channel and encourage people to sub. If you haven't subbed to the channel, do that, and also to check out my webpage is daddybentlegs.com. And one of the things I haven't talked about yet, Brent, but it's important, is one of the pages on the website. I mean, I said there was one page that's devoted to the podcast, right? It says PWD Allies. There's a tab, or there's a page devoted to that on the website for the podcast. But there's also a media tab. So if you tab over to the media tab, there's an opportunity for anybody to basically write an email. They just type an email in. It'll say, "Do you want to be the next guest on Brent's podcast?" You can just type in and hit send, and anything that you send through that web page or on the media there, it's down at the bottom of the page on the media. If you type that and you hit send, it goes directly to me. So if you have even a show idea, if anybody has a show idea that says, please talk about this, hit send. We'll talk about it. Or if you have an idea for a guest, if you don't want to be a guest yourself, but you have an idea for a guest, you can type it in and send it off. So that's another reason to go and check out the website.
So it's on the tabs, but on the main site.
If you go to the main site, so it's www.daddybentlegs.com. That's the main site. But then there's the tab. There's the tab for your podcast is one of the tabs, and then if you scroll over, there's a tab for media, and on that media tab, if down near the bottom, there's a part where you can actually just type in a little thing for email and hit send, and it goes directly to me. And so it's automatic feedback. So that's why I encourage people to use the website and to use to subscribe to the YouTube channel, because like I said, it seems like Twitter is becoming more and more less welcoming by the day. So
well, I found that. You know what, I think I studied web design and development like at college level, 2-year diploma 10 years ago or so. And back then, social media was coming along. It was just Facebook, and Twitter was around, but there wasn't Instagram. There was nothing else. I think omni-channel makes a lot of sense these days. Like, you got to be everywhere. So whether somebody connects to you on Threads or a Facebook group or Reddit, Reddit's kind of cool because you've still got some of your privacy. But yeah, there's lots of ways of doing it. If your website gets hooked up to the different social, that would be great too.
Yeah, I do have links for Twitter, and I have the link, of course, to the YouTube channel there.
Yeah, and podcasts are available on Spotify too.
And the podcast, the audio version of this,
the
audio only is available on Spotify as well.
Cool.
So so it's cool. Go ahead, Brent. Sorry.
I think it's on Apple. I think it's on Apple too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on Apple. It's on Google. It's on Amazon. It's on all of
He's got it all covered there.
Yeah.
We used to have a TV channel. It was City TV, and the announcer would say "City TV everywhere," and then it's like people with disabilities everywhere.
Now it's Brent Frain everywhere.
Yeah. And and of course we have our other network that broadcasts our show on every Wednesday. Every Wednesday it's broadcasted out there.
Cool.
Pretty soon you're going to have your own breakfast cereal there, Brent.
Join me, and this is a live breakfast television.
Very nice.
You call them Weatherman's Wheaties.
Yeah.
Weatherman's Wheaties, Breaking with Brent or Traveling with Brent is the new segment that we have out there. And I learned a little bit about the about passes down when I was traveling. $5, $5 there, and all day ride pass.
Wow.
Meanwhile,
Do you,
I said to the this one gentleman where I was staying, I said, did you know that said that the disabled we have to choose between having a bus pass and having to just take the cash? What? I go, yeah, it used to be a nice one, Neil, when he mentioned about the bus
Equity
pass.
in the system, yeah.
Then he goes, what? I said, yeah, but apparently they blamed the previous administration. They dismantled it. And they couldn't figure out how to put back the system. He goes, that's a crock of shit.
Yeah,
He goes,
Right
my
on.
God, he goes, wow, he goes, thanks for the joke. I mean, that was great humor there, Brent. And I go, I said, I'm being serious. He goes, what's being serious? I go, they dismantled it. He goes, no, conveniently dismantled it. Yeah, right. There we go. Yeah,
accidentally on purpose. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
you know what? If they really cared, I think every person with disabilities would be given a bus pass, a gym membership to a community gym or something, because all that.
It helps to keep them keeps them mentally focused on the communities, keeps their body limber.
How about an automatic health health budget, like an allotment every month for, like, call it the health benefit or something.
Well, community centers,
and you can put it towards massages or something like that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
If
it helps to keep people like limber. In so many ways it benefits people. I mean, there's so many opportunities that can change to help people. If the government would, rather than put themselves into like slow motion all the time, move like a turtle, my God, things could get done. Like, when it's going.
When it's an election issue, that's when stuff moves.
That's why I give some of their.
But like you said earlier, Patrick, if it affects them, then they'll do it. But if it doesn't affect them, they don't necessarily do it.
Only if it affects them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or not them. If it affects their donors. Let's just get it right here. It's the money talks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Oh yeah, and when money talks, that's when it walks.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've done a long goodbye now. 20 minutes or so. That's okay. Good. Yeah, but it was a pleasure as always.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. We'll definitely have you on very, very soon. Probably in a couple weeks.
Sounds good. Yeah. Enjoy your I guess it's afternoon there, eh?
Yeah,
it's about 3:30 almost. Yeah.
Very nice.
I get to go and watch the deer out in our backyard. Apparently they're out playing. They got little baby ones running around now too.
Yeah.
Oh, cute. So you got Meals on Wheels. If you get real, if grogroceries get too expensive, you can
go
exactly. And get Bambi.
Just go there and kill a deer.
Yeah. Just hold on to
Now you can get a gun license, can't you, Brent? That's kind of scary. They won't give you a driver's license, but
exactly. Yeah.
Can't see to drive, you can see to shoot. Yeah, that's makes a lot of sense, right?
Exactly. But thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, guys.
And everybody else who subscribe and share and like the podcast. It's so important to stay connected. If you want to see what's going on in the disability community across this great country of ours. We've got a guest who come on from other countries too. And it's always welcome for everybody to want to come on and share their experience with us. Nice it's like having Patrick on today.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, guys.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Cheers,
Patrick.
everyone.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.